Picture yourself in Jerusalem over 2,000 years ago. The streets are alive with the hum of crowds, yet a heavy tension hangs in the air, thick with uncertainty and dread. Just hours ago, an extraordinary and supernatural event rattled the city to its core. Jesus of Nazareth, a man many revered as the Son of God, was crucified in a storm of suffering and judgment. At noon, the sky turned black, transforming what seemed like a routine Roman execution into a moment that would alter the course of history. Few understood then that Jesus' death was not the end of his story, but the dawn of something far greater. As his blood spilled from the cross and his body was quickly taken down for burial, the very fabric of the universe began to respond. The temple veil tore, the earth trembled, tombs cracked open, and even the most hardened hearts started to glimpse the truth. Today, we'll step back into that time, exploring the mysteries and miracles that defined this pivotal moment. Each detail reverberates through the ages, carrying a spiritual weight that reshaped the world. Are you ready to dive into this story? Let's uncover the 6 events that followed Jesus' death and discover how they continue to shape our lives. 1. The tearing of the temple veil, the first event to shake Jerusalem after Jesus. Death was both shocking and profound. The veil in the temple, separating the Holy of Holies from the rest of the sacred space, was torn in two from top to bottom. Matthew 27-51 records, "And behold, the curtain of the temple was torn in two, from top to bottom." This was no ordinary occurrence. It was a divine act that signaled a seismic shift in the relationship between God and humanity. To grasp its significance, we must understand the veil's role. The Jerusalem temple was the heart of Jewish worship, the dwelling place of God's presence. The Holy of Holies, shielded by a massive curtain, some 60 feet tall and woven of thick fabric, was so sacred that only the high priest could enter. Once a year on the Day of Atonement, after rigorous rituals, this veil symbolized the divide between a holy God and sinful humanity. When Jesus breathed his last on the cross, declaring, "It is finished," the veil ripped apart. Not by human hands, but from top to bottom, a feat no person could achieve. This detail underscores that God himself removed the barrier. Imagine the priest's astonishment as they gazed upon the exposed Holy of Holies, a sight they believed would bring death. The torn veil meant that Jesus' sacrifice had bridged the gap caused by sin, granting all people direct access to God. As Ephesians 2:18 states, "For through him we both have access in one spirit to the Father." For Jesus' followers, this was proof he was the Messiah, fulfilling prophecies like Jeremiah 31 minutes and 33 seconds 34, which promised a new covenant written on hearts. For the religious leaders, it was a troubling sign that their system was unraveling. The torn veil declared that Jesus' once-for-all sacrifice, as Hebrews 10:10 says, made us holy, opening the way to God forever and setting the stage for a universal message of salvation. 2. The earthquake and the opening of tombs. As the echo of the torn veil still reverberated, the ground beneath Jerusalem began to shake. A powerful earthquake struck, and tombs broke open, with many holy people rising from the dead. Matthew 27-51-53 describes it. The earth shook, the rocks split, and the tombs broke open. The bodies of many holy people who had died were raised to life. This was no natural disaster, but a divine response to Jesus' death, a cosmic signal of its eternal impact. As Jesus cried, "It is finished," and gave up his spirit, the earth could not contain the magnitude of his sacrifice. The ground quaked, stones shattered, and the city was thrown into chaos. People clung to one another as homes swayed, and religious leaders struggled to make sense of the upheaval. The earthquake symbolized the dismantling of the Old Covenant, its rituals and sacrifices, making way for a new era founded on Jesus' perfect offering. Even more astonishing, tombs around Jerusalem, holding saints who died awaiting the Messiah, burst open. These resurrected individuals, alive and walking among the people, were no mere spirits but tangible proof of Jesus' power over death. Imagine the shock of seeing a loved one, long buried, now alive, testifying to God's glory. This event foreshadowed the final resurrection, showing that Jesus held the keys of death and Hades. Revelation 1:18. For Jerusalem's residents, the earthquake and open tombs were terrifying yet undeniable signs that something greater than a man's death was unfolding. These events pointed to a victory that would soon culminate in Jesus' own resurrection. 3. The Centurion's confession at the foot of the cross. Another remarkable moment unfolded. A Roman centurion, hardened by years of battle and crucifixions, declared truly this man was the Son of God. Mark 15:39. This confession, from a Gentile soldier of the empire that executed Jesus, was a powerful testament to the universal reach of Christ's death. The centurion, overseeing a unit of about 100 soldiers, was no stranger to the brutality of crucifixion. Yet Jesus was unlike any condemned man he had seen. Instead of cursing or resisting, Jesus prayed, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." Luke 23:34, displaying a supernatural peace. As the crucifixion progressed, the darkened sky, the earthquake, and Jesus' dignified surrender, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit," left the centurion awestruck. These signs, combined with Jesus' demeanor, convinced him that this was no ordinary man but the Son of God. His simple yet profound confession marked a turning point, showing that Jesus' sacrifice was for all nations, not just the Jews. For the disciples reeling from grief, this declaration from an outsider must have been a spark of hope, affirming that even in darkness, Jesus' truth shone through. The centurion's faith, born from witnessing these events, illustrates the gospel's power to transform hearts instantly, setting the stage for its spread to all peoples. 4. The burial by Joseph of Arimathea in the midst of Jerusalem's turmoil. A man named Joseph of Arimathea stepped forward with courage and devotion to give Jesus a proper burial. Luke 23:50-52 describes him as a member of the council, a good and righteous man who had not consented to their decision in action. A respected member of the Sanhedrin, Joseph had remained silent during Jesus' trial, but could not stand by as his body faced dishonor. Risking his reputation and safety, he approached Pilate, the Roman governor, to request Jesus' body, an act that could have drawn the ire of both religious leaders and Romans. Joined by Nicodemus, another Sanhedrin member, who once sought Jesus by night. John 19:39-40, Joseph lovingly took Jesus' body from the cross, washed it, wrapped it in linen, and prepared it with spices, placing it in a new tomb hewn from rock. This act fulfilled Isaiah 53:9, which prophesied the Messiah would be with a rich man in his death. Their tender care, performed while the disciples hid in fear, was a testament to faith and love. As they sealed the tomb with a heavy stone, the silence of that moment belied the miracle about to unfold, proving that Jesus' death was already breaking social and religious barriers, uniting unlikely allies in his honor. 5. The guarding and sealing of the tomb. Fearing Jesus' predictions of resurrection, the religious leaders took drastic measures to secure his tomb. Matthew 27-64 records their plea to Pilate: "Order the tomb to be made secure until the third day, lest his disciples go and steal him away and tell the people, 'He has risen from the dead.'" Though they rejected Jesus as the Messiah, they knew he had spoken of rising on the third day. To prevent any deception, Pilate ordered the tomb sealed with an official Roman seal and stationed a guard of trained soldiers. This act, meant to ensure Jesus remained dead, only amplified the miracle to come. The sealed tomb and vigilant guard, symbols of human controls, stood no chance against God's power. When the stone was rolled away on the third day, not by human hands but by divine intervention, the empty tomb became undeniable proof of Jesus' resurrection. The soldiers, witnesses to this impossible event, were left in awe, their presence ironically strengthening the evidence that no one could have stolen Jesus' body. This moment highlighted the futility of human efforts to contain God's plan, setting the stage for the greatest miracle in history. 6. The promise of Jesus' second coming. The story of Jesus' death culminated not in the tomb, but in the promise of his return, the hope that sustains Christians to this day. After his resurrection, Jesus spent 40 days with his disciples, teaching and preparing them to spread the gospel. His ascension, described in Acts 1:9-11, was a breathtaking moment. As he was lifted into heaven from the Mount of Olives, a cloud hid him from sight. 2 angels appeared, proclaiming, "This Jesus who was taken up from you into heaven will come in the same way as you saw him go." This promise of his second coming became the cornerstone of Christian hope. Revelation 19:11-16 paints Jesus as a victorious king, returning to establish a kingdom of peace and justice. where he will wipe away every tear. Revelation 21:4. His return will bring judgment, as Matthew 25 minutes and 31 seconds to 46 describes, separating the righteous from the wicked and restoring divine order. This hope has sustained believers through persecution, reminding them that history moves toward a glorious end. As to Peter 3-9 assures, God's patience in delaying Jesus' return is an act of mercy, giving more time for repentance. The call to be ready, Matthew 24:44, inspires Christians to live faithfully, spreading God's love until the day he returns in glory. A story that endures these 6 events, the torn veil, the earthquake and open tombs, the centurion's confession, the burial, the guarded tomb, and the promise of Jesus' return, mark a moment that changed not just history, but eternity. Each sign carries a message of hope, transformation, and God's boundless love. The story of Jesus' death is not a tale of defeat but of victory, inviting us to reflect. How does this narrative speak to you today? If this journey through these events has stirred your heart or deepened your understanding, share it with others. The message of Jesus continues to transform lives, and yours could be the voice that brings this hope to someone in need. Thank you for joining us in this exploration of faith, history, and the enduring power of Christ's love. Until next time, remember, his story is far from over, and it continues to shape the world and our lives today.